Let's explore two important artists, Impressionist Claude Monet and Post-Impressionist Vincent van Gogh. Let's learn about these two amazing artists. They were very different men with very different lives. Monet had a family and had a nice home, and he had a very long, peaceful life. Vincent van Gogh never married, never had children. He lived alone, and he wasn't very well accepted by others. He had kind of a lonely life. Claude Monet revolutionized how artists thought about painting. His paintings capture a moment in time, quickly passing. Here's a painting of his garden. I think it's probably evening or late afternoon, with his little boy sitting with his wagon. That little boy isn't going to be there very long. He's going to be gone pretty quick. Monet is known as the painter of light. Here you can see the haystacks paintings, which he's very famous for. It's the same subject, but different times of day. So he's really interested in how the light changes in the course of a day, and he painted painting after painting about that. Here you can see that in these two paintings of a woman with a parasol. In the meadow, you can see the light shining through the clouds in the middle of the day and going through the petals of the poppies. But in later day, you can see that the garden is lit up just on the grass with the light shining through the trees and making little patches of light onto the ground. It's really very beautiful. A subject that Monet painted again and again throughout his life was water lilies. He loved painting water lilies because they brought together everything that he loved to paint. He loved to paint reflections in water. He loved to paint flowers. He was a serious gardener. And he painted them again and again. Here you can see his green bridge, the water lilies at different times of day, closer up, further away. They just were everything he loved to paint put together, and he made some amazing paintings of water lilies. Now let's compare that to Vincent van Gogh. Van Gogh knew Claude Monet and was inspired by his work, but very much had his own ideas about art. Van Gogh was also fascinated by light, but he also painted feelings and sensations. You can almost feel the heat of the sun under your feet or on your shoulders. It's a very hot day, and you can tell by looking closely at this painting. You can tell when he painted this painting, it must have been a very windy day. You can practically tell that the trees are shaking in the wind, and the hills in the background almost look like they're rolling, and the grass in the foreground looks like it's been flattened by the wind. I feel like when you look at a Van Gogh painting, you can almost hear the sounds that were going on around him while he was painting them, like the horse's hooves going over the bridge, or the waves crashing on the shore, or the sound of the factories in the distance. They almost have a sound. Just think about that for a minute. To me, these paintings feel like he's isolated. I can kind of tell that he's not really a part of his community. Like he's there, but nobody particularly wants to talk to poor Vincent. I don't know, maybe you don't get that feeling, but I get that feeling from these paintings. They kind of feel like he was among, but not really with. Do you get that same feeling? Let's compare these two wheat field paintings. One was painted by Van Gogh during a happy time, the other in a time of despair when he was really upset. Can you tell which one is which? Do you think it's amazing that someone can paint feelings in a wheat field? I certainly do. Van Gogh was also very inspired by Japanese art that was really coming to Europe at that time. He used the heavy black lines. That was very characteristic of his work, and that was found in Japanese art at the time. And the way he used a picture space was very inspired by the way that Asian art tends to be used, with kind of off-kilter, uneven, with one very large thing on one side, or with one item dominating the entire space. He was really inspired by how they used their picture space or their composition. The way he used brushwork and the way he arranged his picture space makes his portraits feel surreal or dreamlike. They don't seem realistic, although these are real people and it does look like them. I like them though. Even his still life paintings seem to buzz with energy. The way he painted the basket, the pine branches in the background, and the gloves, they have all this brushwork and this interesting use of picture space that was so characteristic of his work. These sunflowers too, they have this really interesting use of brushwork and picture space. They have energy. They aren't just sitting there, just laying there like the dead sunflowers they actually are. Generally considered his greatest masterpiece is The Starry Night. And once again, you can see all those things that made Vincent van Gogh such a special painter. You see the tree in the foreground, very much taking up that space, the wind blowing in the sky, the stars twinkling, the moon glowing, but the sleepy little village down at the bottom, not paying any attention to any of it. It's an amazing painting and very beautiful. I hope you get to see it yourself someday. Now let's compare their work. If we compare these two sunflower paintings, the one on the left by Vincent van Gogh and the one on the right by Claude Monet, you can see that they had very different painting styles and very different ways of using color. Can you make a sunflower painting inspired by Vincent van Gogh? Here are two gorgeous still life paintings, the one on the left by Van Gogh, the one on the right by Monet, which is one of my favorite Monets. And you see how they use fruit and dishes, and Van Gogh has some flowers in there, but Monet does not. But they're both really gorgeous paintings. Can you make a still life with fruit inspired by Monet and Van Gogh? Here you can see two landscape paintings of meadows. They're both of meadows. The one on the left by Van Gogh, the one on the right by Monet, and very different use of picture space, but both very beautiful paintings. Can you make a meadow painting? This one was by Claude Monet. I suggest you kind of go with the Monet style. It's a little easier. Once again, very different paintings of the same subjects. These are boats or seascape paintings, the one on the left by Van Gogh, the one on the right by Monet. Monet really liked to use reflections in his work, and you can really see this in this sailboat painting on the right. Could you make a painting with boats reflecting on the water like Claude Monet? Here are two garden paintings, one by Van Gogh on the left and Monet on the right. Now, as far as we know, Van Gogh never painted water lilies, so we can't really compare that, but he did paint flowers and loved painting them. Can you make a water lily painting inspired by Claude Monet? And here are two night paintings, the one on the left by Van Gogh and the one on the right by Monet. And you can see they both made night with the different colors of night, with the blues and the grays. Very beautiful. Can you paint the sky at night? I would be inspired by the Starry Night. I think that could make a very beautiful painting. Let's make some art.